Cliches retire, we set them free, shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I am your host, Kim Miller-Hershon, and I am so excited to introduce to you Leah Carter. She works for Reckitt. And in a second, I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. I think she has a really interesting story to tell, some great leadership gems for us. So, Leah, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. Hey, everyone. I am Leah Carter, and I lead up digital product and consumer engagement at Reckitt for Enfamil baby formula. So what does that mean? I oversee our digital strategy and execution for the Enfamil website, the Enfamil Family Beginnings mobile app, and the Enfamil Rewards program. And I lead a team of 9 people across product management, UX content, and project management. And we power the digital experiences for new and expecting parents.
What a fun job to have.
We're surrounded by pictures of cute babies all the time, and we get to really make a difference in the lives of moms and babies. And what's better than that?
Right. Exactly. I agree. And 9 people is a lot of people to manage. And I know some of them are direct and some of them are dotted line reports to you. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have 5 that report directly into me, and then the rest would be skip levels.
Yeah. All right. We're going to talk more about that. But before we get into the leadership stuff, we are all dying to know. So your random question for today is, name one task that people usually hate doing that you actually enjoy.
Oof, this is a tough one. I actually really enjoy cleaning up data in Excel spreadsheets. It's so boring, but I find it really soothing to sit and clean up data and then tell a story from it.
Oh, that is so funny. What is funny about that is that earlier this week, I presented on a project that I just finished where I interviewed 16 leaders in this company and had all the data in an Excel spreadsheet and then had to analyze it and come up with my recommendations. And it hurt my head. Let's just say that.
My team is so funny. Whenever they ask for something, I always lead them to an Excel spreadsheet. Literally, I have an Excel for everything, and it has become a running joke on my team.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. And I will say, Excel, they have done a pretty good job of improving their functionality and their UI, their user interface.
They have. This is how nerdy I am. I've been playing around with how I can clean up data in Copilot and Chat GPT and see if we can bring AI into it. So yeah, data nerd right here.
Well, how funny. What's interesting is I find Chat GPT and those to be essential tools. But I think the other thing that's interesting about that, and I think something that's going to lead us into your leadership style, which is I am all for using AI tools. I use them a lot in my business. They do not replace
Absolutely.
humans. And I think that's actually what hurt my brain this week was that I crunched all the data in Chat GPT, but then it was like, it's good and helpful. It's not the whole story. They don't know the client. They have not had the conversation. And so really taking the time to think, okay, so what is useful here?
Yes.
And then what do I need to add and so forth?
AI really requires human oversight. You have to be very skilled to be able to figure out truth from hallucination and be able to take the data, take the information and marry that with the real world and the truth to be able to tell a story and really use AI effectively.
I agree. All right. Let's switch tacks a little bit and talk a little bit about leadership. Tell us what you thought success and good leadership looked like. Was it modeled in your family? Was it something that a mentor told you? What did you used to think was going to make you successful? And what do you know now?
Yeah. So it's interesting. There are so many perceptions of what success is. I actually was really lucky that my dad was really successful in a family business. And so I had a really great example from him in terms of what success looked like. And I definitely set the bar high for myself. So coming out of school, I wasn't quite following in his path right away. He was business, and I came out of school and I was a graphic designer. But I did decide to go back to business school, and I actually followed right in his footsteps and went and got my MBA at Stern and moved over into the marketing world. But it's interesting because there are these really global perceptions of what success looks like. And I never bought into that. I've always done things my own way. I'm one to challenge the norm. And I've always just said, hey, why do things have to be this way? I want things to be another way. And so that's really the mindset that I've come from. And it's really helped me to shape my career.
So, Leah, that's really interesting. Is your company like a Fortune 100 company, a Fortune 500 company? Like, it's a big company.
It's a big company. I would have to check exactly where on the
Right.
14th ball, but it's a big company.
What's interesting about that is I think there's a perception in the world that you cannot have the I want to do it my way in a big corporation. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, honestly, I'm just honest. I identify opportunities for myself. The way that I've really built my career is by asking for more, whether that be more responsibility, more direct reports, more money. But I just always ask for what I want. And I think there's power and strength behind being brutally honest sometimes. And that's really how I have built myself up.
Do you feel like you naturally are somebody who is pretty direct and asks for what you want? Or is that something that you've really had to learn?
It's a combination, and I think it's really situational. So I've had different bosses over the years, and it all depends on who you're working with and who you're working for. So there's really just no single rule book, right? You are basing everything on a situation. So having that situational awareness and analysis of where you are is so key to these things, and really the level of honesty and the way that you approach any of these conversations.
Okay, so we are going to do full stop for a second because what you just said is so important, right? So read the room, people, read the room, right? Listen, my area of expertise is interpersonal communication skills, and I can sometimes forget. What you just said is so important, which is figure out who you're talking to and meet them where they are versus always coming from where you are.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And that is a game changer. And I imagine that you end up getting more of what you want.
I do. At least I like to think I do.
Yeah. So there's always room to improve. But I think having that understanding, having that awareness is so important. And, the other thing too is that we don't always have to do everything 100% right to still get a good outcome.
Not at all. You definitely don't have to do everything right to get a good outcome. I can tell you that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so funny. All right. So, as a successful leader, what's one thing people assume that you've got totally figured out, but behind the scenes, you're still wrestling with it?
Yeah. So, one thing that I really struggle with is hard conversation
Mm.
and giving hard feedback.
Yeah.
I hate having to give negative feedback to anyone. I know women emotion work, but it's true. There's an emotional aspect to it. And I just really struggle with giving feedback. And sometimes there are the hard conversations that I directly have, like we just spoke about. But there are a lot of times where I will actually wait to have that conversation, say until the end of a one on one with my boss. It's actually really funny because he jokes that I always save the hardest conversations for the last 5 minutes of our meeting. So now it's become a thing where if you do that, you're pulling a Leah Carter. Yes. And so now we'll walk into our one on ones and he's, okay, so you're going to pull a Leah Carter on me today. So I need to learn how to feel more comfortable with giving feedback and with asking some of those hard questions.
Yeah, a lot of times I think that it is about how you frame it. Now, not when you're talking to your boss, but certainly when you're giving feedback to employees. How I like to talk about it is that even though it is difficult, it's actually kind.
It is. I agree.
I have clients who I have worked with that we've done a total 180 in regards to giving difficult feedback. I'm just going to tell you, this is my opinion. Any employee who gets feedback on their performance review that is a surprise to them, that is a management error.
Yes. Yes. I was just having this conversation with someone, actually, multiple people over the past couple of days. I had a really specific conversation in the midst of mid-year reviews and with someone on my team about, continually asking for feedback, that I am here to give feedback. You need to ask for it. I will give you feedback when I see areas, but if you're not sure about something, just ask me how you're doing. So strongly about that. When I come to you with a mid-year or a year-end review, it should be no surprise. You should know exactly what's coming.
That's right. Exactly. And even though it is difficult to give people hard feedback, the other thing is too, is that if you do not give them an opportunity to correct. You don't give them an opportunity to grow. And one of your biggest responsibilities as a manager is to help people move up in their careers.
Yes. I actually had this really great manager. He had a really great philosophy about how to move up. And it was, you push me up and then I'll pull you up with me. And I loved that. And I take that to this day. I think the best way to move up is to establish a really strong rapport with your team. And when they see you as a leader and as someone who's successful, and they advocate for you as their leader, then it's your job to also advocate for them because they deserve to have that pull up also.
And here's the other piece, is that oftentimes as leaders and managers, we set ourselves up as if the communication can only go one way.
Yes.
So you can only, as the leader, give somebody below you feedback. But have you created an environment where they can actually give you feedback as well?
Yes. And every single one of my team's reviews, I ask them at the end of the conversation, what feedback do you have for me? And what can I do better to help you succeed? And a lot of the time, I don't get any feedback. I think it takes people by surprise, even though I do it every single time. But I think it's really important to let people know as a leader that you are willing to grow with them. It's not a one-way street here. It really is a two-way street.
Yeah. One of the tools that I often use is a user manual to me. And it's where it's just like 6 questions where you and the employee get to say how you like to be communicated with, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And one of the questions, which I think is such an interesting conversation to have, is what do people misunderstand about me?
Yes.
It's like the foundational piece, right? And then once you establish, oh, like we can talk about our communication, then you can have that conversation when things go awry.
Yes. And with my boss, I have established a relationship like that. And we consistently give each other feedback. And he appreciates it so much. He was even saying to me the other day about how he had sent this email about the way he wanted to change a process and it was vague. And so I went to him and I was like, are you really just asking for this? And he was like, yes, but I didn't know that I could ask you for that. And I was like, yes, just tell me straight up. And he says to this day, that's changed the way that he asks for things and that he comes to me because it makes a difference.
And I think the ability to give that direct feedback as opposed to, and you tell me if you have had this experience, which is I don't give the feedback directly to my boss about it. And then I call up my friend Sue, who is another manager that he manages, and we spend 15 minutes on the phone saying how vague it is and how irritating it is and blah, 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 blah. And it never gets fixed and it doesn't stop. And B, can you imagine, as big a company as you work for, if you added up all the time that's wasted by people fighting with each other?
Although I will say, in this instance, I did do a gut check and reached out to one of my peers and I was like, did you understand this? Did you know this is a thing? Because I didn't. And once we validated, then we ended up teaming up and both going to him and resolving the way that we're having these conversations. So I think that sometimes it's okay to do a gut check and make sure that you're perceiving things the same way that other people. But yeah, the gossip, not productive at all.
Yeah, no, actually, I would even say that oftentimes a gut check is actually a really important piece of the process, because sometimes we get triggered by things that are about our story.
Yeah.
That really is not what the person was communicating. And so it's super helpful to have somebody else help you sort that out.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. If you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you'd throw out immediately, and what would you replace it with?
So I think I throw out the belief that just because you're the leader, you have the answers. And when I was younger, I really thought that I had all the answers. And I cringed thinking back on how confident I was that I knew what was right. I just cringed. So yeah, look, do I still love a good I told you so moment? Absolutely. I'm human. But I really learned that the best leaders aren't necessarily the ones that know the answer, but they're the ones that can elicit the answer out of their team and out of the people around them. True collaboration.
And what's so powerful about that is I think so often leaders are reluctant to have people smarter than them on their team, right? You have to be pretty confident in yourself as a leader to be able to do what you just said.
Yeah. You know what? I have a team with so many subject matter experts. I can't be smarter than them because if I was, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I am doing a lot of the organizational navigation and I'm looking at higher level strategy and wrangling team members but I don't know the ins and outs of the technicalities of search engine optimization. So my SEO manager better be smarter than I am in that area. Same thing with user experience. My user experience team better know more about user experience than I do. I have the higher level skills to be able to lead this team and some of the base knowledge, but I can't be the smartest person in the room depending on the context of the meeting.
All right, let me ask you, this came up in a workshop that I did earlier this week. I'm throwing you a curveball.
Okay.
So one of the things I think that comes up when you lead a team and you are no longer executing, I'm wondering if this resonates with you, that you have to redefine what success looks like. Because when you are tactical, as you're moving up in your career, your success is about checking things off your list and completing projects, right? And you are directly doing those things. So you're like, snap, I got that. And when you are leading a team and it's really about other people executing,
Yeah.
have you had to redefine how you think of yourself? Like, what does actually success look like now as a leader versus how it looked as a practitioner?
Yes, it has absolutely changed. As a practitioner, subject matter expert, it was all about checking things off a list. And I think back to the tasks that I used to do compared to the tasks I do now. Whereas, again, like I mentioned, it's a lot more navigation of the organization, trying to get stakeholder alignments, looking at bigger picture strategies. And, for a while, it was definitely a strange shift where I had to think, I didn't check 16 things off today. I did things and I was very productive and I gained alignment with this person and I navigated this tough issue, but I didn't check 16 things off my list today. And it's definitely a mindset adjustment for sure.
Yeah. What I think is interesting about it is that you definitely need to do it, but I think it's not talked about all that much. You've got your job description, you have performance objectives. Those are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. But what gives you joy? How do you mark your own success?
Yes. And what gives you joy might change over time too. I used to love being hands on and tactical. I loved to execute. I loved to dig in and check things off the list. And now over time, I've gotten so much more comfortable letting other people do those tasks. And I've found that now all the stakeholder management is something that I really love. I never thought that I would love dealing with red tape and trying to convince people to do something that they don't want to do and get alignment on how to spend budgets and all of those things. But actually, that's what brings me joy now. And I don't like the execution stuff anymore. So, what brings you joy evolves over time too.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yep. All right. What's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow in your career, even though it might go against typical advice?
All right. So we're going to get personal on this one. So I've actually really embraced being open about my personal life at work to a certain extent, especially when I'm going through something really tough. So I think there's this kind of longstanding belief that you should keep your personal and your professional lives completely separate. For me, I actually have 8-month-old twins at home, and that came from a very long secondary infertility journey. And I actually made the decision to be honest with my boss about what was going on. A lot of women don't, they hide it, but I just couldn't be fake. And it made it so much easier when I was balancing doctor's appointments and when I having tough days and going through pregnancy loss and all of the things in my real life that affected me when I was at work also. And it also let me be vulnerable. It really helped me to build trust with my boss. And then it let me show up fully when I was able to, but it also let me take the space when I needed it without having any shame or guilt. So I actually felt like doing that helped to almost grow me as a leader also. And I'm so much more open now when my team is going through really difficult personal things. And I just think, of course, you're not going to go around and you're not going to broadcast your whole personal life. But I think sometimes it's okay to be human and it's okay for your personal life to cross into your professional life.
That's profound. And I think being in a safe space to be able to do that and knowing where the line is.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So I have a former client who is very high functioning autistic, and she's an attorney because she is so high functioning. She is brilliant that you would not know. And here's the reality. She gets overwhelmed and she gets taken out. And it's not an option for her to just show up anyway. And I think knowing going in, because what happens is that very similar to what you're saying is that if you don't know, then you just think this person is not performing their job well,
Exactly.
right? And I'm like, listen, this is who this person is. She can absolutely do what you need, and you just need to know.
Yeah.
There are times when she is going to be overwhelmed. She is not just going to get over it. This is like a real thing.
Yes.
And let's just be upfront about what that is. She's neurodivergent. Let's not
Yes.
fight it.
Exactly. I think it just brings such a human element to the professional life, right? Yeah. Don't go around and use your personal life as excuses, but sometimes the context is really important. Everyone's got their own story.
Right.
got their own challenges, things that make them who they are. And why hide them? Why not just embrace them?
Right. And it's interesting though, because as a leader, I agree 100%. And then finding the line is also sometimes challenging.
Yes, it is. It can definitely be challenging to find the line. And I think sometimes the line has to do with what you're comfortable sharing. And sometimes the line has to do with, what's appropriate to share. And sometimes, again, this goes back to what we talked about earlier with situational awareness, right? And so it really depends on the person that you're sharing with and the situation that you're in, what their context is, their context in the world, and their context from a professional standpoint. I think situational awareness and just being able to understand where the line is so key.
Right. And I do, though, want to emphasize your point that I think there is this conventional wisdom that says not just you need to keep the two things separate, but that somehow you have to show up at work as your best self every single day that you are at work, no matter what.
Yes.
And I think that is something that we should put in the trash.
Yes. And let me tell you, my twins right now have some sort of snottiness and they've got some sort of germs running through their systems. And the other morning, I was up with one of them at 4:30 a.m. and then had to go to the office and work a full day. And that day was a very different day than a day when I get a full night's sleep. And I think it's important for my team to know, hey, just a heads up, I was up at 4:30 this morning. So I'm a little less me today. There's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we share that because I have twins as well.
Yes, you
Yeah.
do.
But my twins are grown. And when they have snotty noses, it's their problem, not mine anymore.
The industrial snot sucker and fight screaming infant. And I envy that quite a bit.
Yeah. Here's the wonderful thing because you have an older child, right? And then twins. And I have the exact same family constellation there. And it is very fun. Once the kids outnumber the parents, it's just over. It's never the same again. Yeah.
Changes the game completely.
Yeah. Yeah. In the most like wonderful, challenging, crazy ways.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So many leaders secretly battle with imposter syndrome. This is really a two-part question.
Okay.
One is, where does it show up for you? Where you have a lack, maybe sometimes a lack of confidence or can get triggered. And then when that voice of doubt creeps in, what do you do?
This one is really tough, honestly. I feel like I deal with imposter syndrome all the time. It just never goes away. And for me, I just work with so many incredibly talented and incredibly intelligent people. It's really easy to feel like you're not the smartest one in the room, like we were talking about. And again, you don't always have to be, but it definitely can give you a complex sometimes. I definitely always have this little sort of devil on my shoulder that's, do you belong here? Are you sure you want to say that? And sometimes it's really hard to just make that little devil go away. So I think for me, the way that I deal with it is I force myself to do the thing that I feel like an imposter doing. So if I think that I shouldn't speak up because I don't feel like I'm going to say the smartest thing, I will speak up. I think trying to get comfortable doing things that make you uncomfortable is so important. And maybe I should give myself that advice a little while ago about the hard conversation. But yeah, I think doing things that make you uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh, that is such a gem. It's really important. And I think there's two things that come to mind. I think situational awareness, being able to read the room,
Yes.
is a really important piece of taking those baby steps, or maybe they don't feel like baby steps. Maybe they
Yeah.
feel like leaps, but it feels like a success.
Yes.
So I think there is that. I have the opposite thing, which is like everybody does not need to hear everything I think.
Trust me, I have those moments too. Again, situational awareness, right? There are definitely places where I could afford to keep my mouth shut a little more. And there are times where I really have to push myself to speak up.
Right. And I think the situations where you have some discomfort, maybe you feel that devil's on your shoulder, you feel a little out of your league, you feel like there's a lot of really smart people in the room. I think we all have that experience
Oh, yeah.
of that. And then I think pushing yourself to say something. I worked with a client for a long time who is on an executive team, and it's really interesting. So he is a subject matter expert. And if you ever ask him a question about his area of expertise, he's very happy to jump in on that. But as a member of this executive team, he was asked to weigh in on things which, from his perspective, he didn't know anything about. And he really struggled for a long time with finding his footing of being able to speak up. And here's a really good piece of advice when you find yourself in that situation, which is ask better questions.
I agree.
Sometimes, if you don't understand it, there are other people who will not understand it either. And asking somebody to clarify what they mean or explain themselves or even say more about that
Yes.
is a great way to without being like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
And I have this little dynamic with my team where whenever anyone comes to me and they're like, "Can I ask you a really stupid question?" I'm like, "Only if I can give you a stupid answer because your question's not stupid. So yeah, if you want to ask me a stupid question, I'll give you a stupid answer, but just ask me your question. It's not a stupid question."
I think there is that. And then let's just be honest, as a leader and a manager, somebody who continually asks you the same question over and over again, that's a potential issue, right?
It is. I think that comes down to asking the same thing over and either expecting a different answer or just not paying attention. And yes, that is a whole other issue.
Right. So I just throw it in the ring because I think we don't want to give people the impression that being a good leader is letting everybody do whatever it is that they want or need to do. Being a good leader is really, and a good manager is really knowing when you got to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that here's something that happens for me. I will just agonize over having a conversation or giving feedback. And then I'll give the feedback and it's 100% not a big deal to the other.
All the time. All the time. I get so much anxiety over it. And then afterwards, I'm like, why was I so anxious? That was
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah. So very interesting conversation. This has been amazing. Is there anything that you want to add in here that you think that I haven't asked you about?
I think the one thing that I'll just add, I think being a woman in business, I think we just need to always remember we need to build each other up. We need to push each other to be in these uncomfortable situations. I think we tend to get a little bit more hung up than our male counterparts do. And I think we just need to make sure that we find networks so we can remind each other what we're capable of because we are just so smart and we are doing great things out there. And I just hate that some women feel so small and unable to do the same things that men are doing. I know so many powerhouse women who are managing families and careers, and it's so inspiring. And I would love to see women do that. And I also try to set a great example like that for my daughter, who's 7 and a strong, independent woman. And I want her to be encouraged by a strong, independent woman and be a CEO one day.
Yeah, there you go. But not of you, right? Not a CEO of you.
A CEO of me. She thinks she is now, and she certainly is not. Yeah. I would love to see her. She wants to be a teacher. And trust me, my husband's a teacher. I have all the respect for teachers. I think it's a very noble profession. But man, my daughter, she better be a CEO one day with her attitude and strong will.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% around the lifting women up. I think there's two things that come to mind for me. One is, what does it really look like to 10x your game? We tend to, I think smaller
Yes,
than we could.
for sure.
So I think there's that piece of it. Like, really, what does it mean to play a really big game? That's
Yes.
number one. I think the second thing is I've heard this more than I would like to, which is I had to fight my way up to the top. So, not going to really help you. You're going to fight your way up, or treating other women badly. And let's not do that anymore.
Let's build each other up. Let's empower each other.
Yeah.
Let's really just make sure that we are all able to do great things. Again, I grew up with a really inspiring dad from a career standpoint, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I don't take that for granted. I want to be able to model that strong career woman for my daughter, right? And I want to be able to show her how much women can achieve. And I can't do that on my own. That has to be all of the strong women around me also. Can't just be one person.
Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, that is a perfect place for us to end because I think that this last topic, we should just meet again and we should have this conversation. Like, we've a big conversation. Yeah. In the meantime, you have been listening to Leah Carter and Kim Miller-Hershon on Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom, where cliches come to retire and fresh thinking we inspire. So do all the things that you know you're supposed to do, subscribe, comment, all the stuff, and listen in next time because this was just an amazing conversation. And I think the great thing, Leah, about this is that truly so many gems in there. And I think you really created a huge amount of value for the listener. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you so much. Thanks
Yeah,
for
it was a great conversation. All right. Bye for now. Go out there and be a better human.
Cliches retire, we set them free. Shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.